I call Ria Bond.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I rise on behalf of New Zealand First to take this third call in the House tonight on the New Zealand Business Number Bill, which is, for the National-led government, a very important piece of legislation that seeks to promote innovation and business. New Zealand First supports the intent of this bill, Mr Speaker, which is primarily to enhance the government's initiatives aimed at better public service results number 9, for better business commitment by reducing business interactions with government agencies, effort of 25% by 2017. It also aims to reduce the business's red tape for eligible entities, and it also aims to increase or lift productivity to businesses, so therefore there's less time stuck on the phone trying to make contact with government agencies, and more time working in their businesses, especially for sole traders that work not only in their business but on their businesses, as often they're the only ones that are actually within their business, and also ultimately the cost savings to businesses. I'm disappointed, Mr Speaker, in the National Government members across the House who took calls in the Committee of the Whole House on this bill, because a good amount of content on talking to this bill was merely, well, it was simply a mechanical delivery with very little impressive details coming out of the calls. That showed those members did not fully understand the total effects of this bill and did not understand my supplementary order paper, that it would have helped assist the government to incorporate those government agencies to adopt the New Zealand Business Number Bill. They showed the lack of care for ensuring legislation being set in this House is fit for purpose, and the intent of this bill particularly could have been achieved with my supplementary order paper. Now, I want to say I note in the Minister's opening statement tonight that she has mentioned the fact that the government doesn't have complete buy-in from the 9 agencies that's required to actually adopt the process to interact with the aim and intent of this bill. And I just want to add to that it's still putting the cart before the horse, Mr Speaker, because what the Minister failed to give this House, and actually New Zealanders that are actually in business in this country, was a time frame that the agencies would be required to come into line and adopt the system so it can be interactive and it can actually aim to complete the intent of this bill and not just become another wasted resource. What this government failed to do in all of the members' calls taken in this House was to back themselves. They also failed to back small to medium-sized enterprises. They failed to back sole traders. They failed to back trusts and incorporated societies. And that in itself showed the absolute failure to back their very own government agencies, that this was indeed a good, sound bill and would achieve the intent and purpose. It was simply a farce, Mr Speaker. Now, let's remember during my in-house committee call, and I do understand, sir, that you've given a ruling to remind us that we can't dwell too much on such lost. I provided the government within this bill support from my supplementary order paper that amended clause 28 that read government agencies may use the New Zealand Business Number Bill. And for me it was quite simple, Mr Speaker, to change that clause to government agencies must use the New Zealand Business Number Bill. Now, I know when I introduced that to the House that not all 880 agencies would be able to pick that up. I know that and I understood that. The rationale was for the supplementary order paper was to help assist the government and government agencies to become part of the single portal system if that uses in accordance with the purposes of this Act. Dr David Clark amended my amendment to allow the grace of time, to allow the government agencies to become part of the successful implementation of this bill. Let's remember that originally, when the government presented this bill to the House, the intent of this government was to have all of the government agencies included in this business number rollout mandatory. New Zealand First asked why. Why was this removed from this bill? The only answer that I could see clearly was that this bill was poorly drafted, and glaringly the government didn't understand the financial risks to its own government agencies, and the reason that fundamentally the government has failed to ensure its own agencies have kept up to speed at the administration and IT level by continually underfunding core expenditure to ensure robust, clean, efficient systems are regularly maintained. That should have been a strong focus, and that really is the fundamental reason why all of a sudden clause 34 was stripped from this bill. Mandatory participation should be required by the government agencies to ensure that the New Zealand Business Number Bill does not just become another number, another business overhead, another bill that has unintended consequences and inequality to entities and not government agencies. Secondly, it makes me question, was the government muscled by its own agencies to pull them out of the business number process? Did they bow to pressure? And that is why, was that why this bill, the clause 34, was actually stripped from this bill? And I say that that's embarrassing. I say that that is actually really embarrassing for this government if that was the case. There is a formidable saying in the business world, the devil is in the detail. And I can assure you from this side of the House, we are getting used to this national-led government of doing the exact opposite, Mr. Speaker, not understanding just how devilish the detail is in this poorly constructed bill. We heard from various submitters, one of them being the Chartered Accountants Australia and New Zealand, who opposed the clause being removed for the very fact that I have already alluded to in both my second reading and the Committee of the Whole House reading. They have said the benefits for businesses may be overstated. As a former businesswoman myself, I speak firsthand of the neglect this nationally government has inflicted on small to medium-sized businesses and sole traders who make a significant contribution to our economy. And that is no secret, and members of this House know this too. We have heard in this House that for a period of time, businesses have been asking for a more streamlined, secure, easier process to interact with government agencies. And this bill goes partway to allowing that, Mr. Speaker. This bill is widening up the scope of catchment by including small to medium enterprises, sole traders, incorporated societies and trust. I go back to the fact that New Zealand First supports the intent of this bill, but without the mandatory participation by government agencies, this bill will become another problematic, and we may be here again in a year's time amending this bill again. I would also like to say, due to the Minister's statement earlier, that she's mentioned that the agencies will be required within a length of time to hook into the system. And again, New Zealand First wants an answer. When will that be? Because a piece of string is quite long, Mr. Speaker. How many times are we to see in the 51st Parliament, or have we seen already, unintended consequences like 0 hours, retrospective discoveries like paying back beneficiaries, increased red tapes like worm farming, listed as... Okay, Mr. Speaker. For too many times, Mr. Speaker, we've seen the 51st Parliament amend legislation and acts that have not been fit for purpose. This national government have had so many incidences of poor administration, and I've actually lost count how many times we've had to do this. Just take the news this morning of confidential medical records being found scattered across the Christchurch street. That's more embarrassment on the government.
Order, that's not part of the bill.
Okay, on one hand, this government expects thousands of owner-operator businesses in places like Invercargill, where I come from, to upgrade their administration IT systems to fit in with the New Zealand Business Number. They themselves, on the other hand, have removed Clause 34 that ensured all government agencies participated in the New Zealand Business Number process. I speak to constituents in Southland on a daily basis who are fed up with this government's neglect, and I wholeheartedly agree with those constituents who speak to me that this government's inability to really listen to ensure that legislation that we set in this House is fit for purpose and not a cost to businesses. Now, I know it's simply not achievable, as I said earlier, to have the whole 880 government agencies participate and adopt the New Zealand Business Number Bill and to hook up into the online system. I know that, and I knew that through the in-house call committee time. The riddle in this particular bill for me, Mr. Speaker, is that when the government introduced the New Zealand Business Number Bill to the House, it actually had Clause 34 inside of it, that those provisions would be that it would be mandatory for all government agencies which would have to have participated in this bill. If government agencies are so ill prepared for the New Zealand Business Number that they are granted voluntary participation, as the Minister clearly spoke to earlier, with unclaimed timeframes, I ask how is that fair to small and medium-sized enterprises that they are being forced for mandatory compliance within 28 days of the rule of assent, like taxi operators, like dairy owners, like share milkers, like hairdressers and independent midwives. How is this bill fair for those sectors, Mr. Speaker? In closing, Mr. Speaker, New Zealand First will not be supporting this bill because for all the reasons that I've stated there tonight. It's not going to reduce red tape. It will delay significant recognition of the benefits of businesses using this bill.
Sorry,
Thank
the
you.
member's time has expired.
Mr. Speaker.